Hello again everyone and welcome back to the Underground. This is the Intel update for June 29th through July 5th, 2025. It has been a very dynamic week throughout the United States and around the world. So in the interest of time, let's go ahead and jump right to the map and talk about some of the severe flooding in Texas, as this is a currently developing situation as I am recording this update. Alright, so here we are on the map. I'm going to be using WinTAC mostly today instead of my normal ArcGIS maps, which I'll talk about in a moment. As I've mentioned a few times before, I prefer to use WinTAC and ATAC to build a lot of these more real-time products so that I can then bring them into my more long-term mapping projects on ArcGIS. I know it's not the best way to display the information sometimes, but this will have to do for now. So let's go ahead and zoom into the flood zone in Texas here, just northwest of San Antonio, up in Carr County, Carville, and the city of Ingram. So waiting for our map to finish loading here. As many of you have seen over the past couple of days, mostly last night, the evening of July 4th, severe flooding struck this area. The National Weather Service predicted about 3 to 6 inches worth of rain throughout the region due to the collapse of a weather system that rolled in over the Gulf. It didn't form into a hurricane or anything like that, but the remnants of it ended up stalling over this area and just dumping way more rain than anyone expected. And this area is very legendary for flash floods, and that's exactly what happened. So far, a total of 24 fatalities have been reported throughout the area, but this number is probably expected to rise as rescue and recovery efforts continue. Some of the more high-profile rescues and incidents occurred over here in the west, so this is probably why a lot of you have heard about it due to it receiving national attention. There were 3 summer camps that were affected by this that were host to hundreds of children, taking advantage of the 4th of July summer camp sort of season, right? And unfortunately, all 3 of these camps were hit very heavily by floodwaters, as they are quite literally on the river, right? That's typically where a lot of summer camps end up being. Camp Mystic, unfortunately, was hit the hardest. As we can see, it was pretty bad, and a lot of helicopter rescues had to be undertaken from this camp. I think there were a few hundred kids there when the flooding started, and quite literally no one had any warning. There was really no way to predict or determine exactly how bad the flooding was going to be once it just dumped all that rain all at one time. The camps to the north, along the Guadalupe River itself, Camp Waldemar and Camp La Junta, these camps were evacuated successfully. No reports of trouble there, although there were a lot of kids swimming to make it out of there. So rescues were conducted here successfully, and rescue operations continue along all of these tributaries and floodplains throughout the whole region. So for those of you who are in the area, one of the biggest challenges has been trying to find and reunite families with one another. So just for everyone's awareness, there are 2 reunification points. One of them is the Ingram Elementary School, and the other one is a historic theater downtown in Carville called the Arcadia Live Center. It's a small building there. You'll see it once you get in the area. So these are the 2 places to check if you are looking for family members and loved ones. Of course, this is a nightmare when it comes to reunifying families, because you've got a lot of kids who are, they're not at home, right? So you're talking about trying to reunify potentially hundreds of people. So it's kind of a tough situation logistically. A lot of people have been reunited, thankfully, but just for those who may be in the area who are still looking for people, these are the 2 places to check. On the recovery front, there are several shelters that have been opened up throughout the area. The first shelter is in Ingram at the Ingram Fire Department. That's probably more of a small facility, but it's a good place to rally, good rally point for now. Some of the more substantial resources are actually over in Carville, mostly churches. So the First United Methodist Church just across the river there to the south, the Notre Dame Catholic Church, and also the Calvary Temple Church are also open for those who need to seek shelter during this crisis. And also one of the main buildings at Schreiner University is open as well as a shelter, temporary shelter. So in terms of road closures, most of the river crossings here that are low river crossings over the Guadalupe River are closed. A lot of bridges are washed out, smaller bridges throughout the area, so it's just kind of a logistically challenging thing to find out exactly what's still standing. Riverside Drive down here to the southeast of the city is closed, and there are random random road closures all over the place from where things have washed out. So again, flash flooding is one of those logistically challenging things to kind of get a hold on. So that's just something to be aware of as time goes on. It's kind of a spread out area, hill country, right? So terrain makes these things a lot worse when it comes to flash flooding. So this is the situation as it stands. I will continue to build this map product out a little bit further, and for those of you who want this map product, this will be on my ArcGIS maps here very shortly. And also I have a KMZ of this, so if you are a responder on the ground and you want to get my data, there's a KMZ for you already built. You just drop it right into ATAC if you want it, and we can go from there. So I should mention that KMZ is also being updated fairly regularly. This will probably change as I get a lot more points and as more reunification points come about and more aid and resources flow into the region. I'm going to start adding more points as I can find them. It may not develop much more than this, but we'll see. So you can find the most up-to-date KMZs for all of this stuff. All of my products are on GitHub in KMZ format, and if you want just a live updating map that you can view on your phone, you can check out my ArcGIS maps below. So that's pretty much all I have for the Texas flooding situation. So let's go ahead and switch gears quite significantly, and let's talk about some of the mapping products I've been working on when it comes to the border crisis. So as many of you know, I have been developing a lot of products that are attempting to track the cartel movements throughout the United States. This is a working project. It is not perfect by any means, but we've got to get started somehow, and this is the best way that I've found to get started with this project. As many of you know, I was hit this week with a DMCA takedown order from ArcGIS, from the parent company Esri, due to this exact map layer. It turns out that one of the NGOs that is funneling illegal immigrants into this country has decided to engage in a little bit of lawfare, or at least try to. Didn't work out so well for them, but this is how things stand as they are. So I thought it would be good to talk about this agency today and exactly what they are doing with your tax dollars. As many of you know, most of these immigrant safe houses, logistical hubs, any kind of agency, group, NGO, company, church, charity, whatever, most of the pucks on this map come from this one agency, the Immigrant Advocates Network. And I would very strongly recommend you guys go to their website, www.immigrationadvocates.org, to see exactly what they are doing to further illegal immigration into the United States. And you might say, well, S2, how do you know that they're funneling illegals into this country? Well, I'm glad you asked, because you can find out very easily. They're very public about it on their own website. So, once we get to the Immigration Advocates Network website, we can click Find Help here at the top of the page, and we can select a state. So let's go ahead and pick, let's say Colorado. Let's just pick a random one here. And since we clicked Colorado, here is a list of all of the groups that this one agency, this is again just one NGO, these are all of the groups that this one agency has partnerships with to help illegals enter the United States and stay in the United States and evade ICE and all of that kind of stuff. And you might say, well, again, how do we know that this is not just some kind of legal immigration sort of thing, the kind of everything's above board? Well, I can tell you right here. Just look at the second one. The Catholic Charities of Central Colorado Family Immigration Services. These are the things that they do, and as we can see, they help immigrants with removal hearings. So what does that mean? This means that they are assisting illegal immigrants to stay in the United States and fight their own deportation hearing. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the kind of thing that is going on a gargantuan scale around the country. That's why I have so many pucks and points on my mapping projects, and this is why they want to take my content down. This is a very large effort, and unfortunately, they're using this word charity here, especially Catholic charities. They're using this word here to, unfortunately, mask what they are doing, because we hear the word charity and we instantly think, oh, okay, well, they're just trying to help people out, right? Well, this is not the sort of thing that they're doing. Sure, they may immigrants may show up to a one of these facilities and get a bag of food or some kind of emergency aid or something like that, but they also get an attorney, because as we can see, they're getting free, that's right, free pro bono legal representation so that they can stay in the United States and fight their deportation orders. So that's exactly what's happening. You can see they even get help completing forms. They don't even need to speak English. They have everyone handle this for them. And as you can see, these agencies are lining up around the block. That is why this is such a serious thing. I don't think a lot of people tend to understand how much money is in this. These groups are tied, again, to very, very large international organizations, such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They also get a lot of billions of dollars of endowment funding from random billionaires who you've probably never even heard of before. So this is how they're able to do it. I mean, I know it may seem surprising, but I mean, this is just kind of how a lot of these groups tend to work. It may seem surprising, but that's just the way that it is. So understandably, when it comes to my own mapping projects, it's not exactly a safe thing to be doing, to be honest. This is a very dangerous line of work. I understand that fully, which is why a lot of times I have to kind of tiptoe around things. So in order to stay above board and to avoid the lawfare from cracking down too much, you know, it's just the way that it is. Sometimes we have to kind of operate in a more low-profile sort of arrangement. Like it or not, it's just the truth that if you're an illegal immigrant in this country, you can have hundreds, if not thousands, of attorneys just chomping at the bit to help you stay in this country and continue committing crimes. But if I put your agency on a map, I don't exactly have a whole lot of attorneys lining up to help me for free. You know what I mean? So you may get one or two, but the scale of this is just astoundingly high. So I know that I don't say this very often, but I'll say it now just for the record. I am fully aware that a lot of not so nice people are watching what I do. They are consuming my products. They are consuming my work. I am not naive to this. So, every single thing I do, every comment on social media, every slide, every dot on a map, everything is done through the lens of assuming that a bad guy is watching. That's just the way things are when a lot of your work is public these days, so please do not think that I am a complete idiot. I mean, I may be, but I am not naive to the fact that a lot of not-so-nice people are watching. This is why all of the data sets that I do, everything that I do is intended to maximize the benefit to the good guys and minimize the effort to the bad guys. So if a malign actor gets one of my work products, be it a slide, a brief, map layer, whatever, I want that bad guy to look at my work and say, this doesn't really help me continue to be a bad guy, right? But I want a good guy to get the work and say, oh, all right, this is very, very helpful, right? It is a very, very careful balance, I will admit, and it is not always possible. So a lot of the work that I do simply doesn't make it to the public's eyes because it's either still in progress, it's still being worked on, or some data that I find I just can't make public because it would cause more harm than good. So I know that's incredibly frustrating when I have things like that, but it doesn't happen too often. Most of the time, these groups, especially when it comes to things like NGOs, they're very proud of their work, right? They're very open and honest about the crimes they're committing. On their own website, they confess to it, right? There's very minimal risk there in these people kind of being found out, right? Really, the best disinfectant for these people and for these agencies and these NGOs is sunlight, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. One point of note, however, for a lot of these immigration projects moving forward, I'm not going to be able to provide a lot of the sourcing, so I may just be able to provide indicators, right? I'm sorry about that. I always like to provide the source data for everything that I work on, but sometimes I may only be able to put a street address, and it's on you to figure out exactly why I put that point on the map. I'll make it easy for you, but again, we're operating in a non-permissive environment. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way that it is. And of course, just because I put a point on the map does not necessarily mean that every single location that I find is truly and utterly guilty of some kind of crime. It's just an indicator, right? But again, this data set is new. I'm going to continue building it as long as I'm able to, and we'll see how it goes. I think right now the biggest benefit for this is just simply awareness. People being made aware of how pervasive illegal immigration is and the sheer industrial effort that NGOs are going through, spending hundreds of millions of dollars to provide an entire ecosystem of legal support at every single step of the way to help illegals stay in this country. This is a very, very big thing, and as you guys can probably tell by my other map layers, the border engagement trackers and the more kinetic things like IED blasts, that sort of stuff, we want to keep that south of the border, right? We want to make sure that does not make its way into the United States, and as we can see, we're starting to heat up in that regard. So this is one of the more serious things that I have tracked over time, both in terms of risk to me, but also risks to this nation. So that's why I am focusing on this quite a lot, because really there isn't anybody else. There's a lot of people complaining about immigration. There's a lot of yapping and a lot of yammering back and forth, but there's not a whole lot of people who are trying to do the best they can, as safely as possible, but still assuming some risk because we live in a risky world, and trying to do the best that they can. So again, it's not perfect, but I will continue to try to make it a little bit better as time goes on. And just in case I forgot to mention it, all of the links to these products will be in the description box below. My border crisis map is still there for now. Download it while you can, or at least view it. If you want a total rip of all of the data that's on the map, I provide KMZs, again, on my GitHub page, just so that you can load it into whatever system you use, be it Google Earth or ATAC or whatever, and you can see all of the data a little bit more clearly. So anyway, I know that's kind of a long digression to kind of talk about this data project, but I think that it's necessary to understand the importance of this stuff. This is an issue that strikes at the very heart of what this nation's identity is going to be in the very near future. This is one of the defining issues of our era, and I'm going to try to do what I can to make sure that the good guys come out on top. With all of that being said, that's pretty much all I have for today. Again, I will continue to update the products with regards to the disaster relief in Texas and seeing how that goes, and I will continue to work on the immigration issues. I'm reworking a lot of my data sets, and I'm adding a lot of points that I previously had not published just yet. Much more to come over the next few weeks. A lot of this is very hard work, or it's not very hard, it just takes a long time, right? So it's a very time intensive task, so please forgive me if I'm not the fastest at updating a lot of my data sets, but we'll get there. And speaking of getting there, let's roll things up today with the Intercepted GhostNet Reports. It was a very fantastic week for the radio. Once again, having a more holistic or all-encompassing view of a lot of the work that I do is probably for the best. I've said it many times before, but I'll say it again. If your job is in the information space, and if your profession or skill set is to do with things like data analysis or something like that, or in my case, information and intelligence analysis, it is also your job to make sure that your information, your work, your effort, your labor can make it to people even in a contingent situation. And that's kind of what I've tried to do with the GhostNet here, in addition to it being just a more generalized HF radio net. So adding in a radio communications component to all of this stuff is what I've been working on for quite a while now. And as we can see, what we have now going on with the GhostNet is a lot of people exchanging information, doing everything from testing and training to sharing real-world information from their local area. So I see quite a few people throughout the week sending news reports from their local area, and generally trying to do the best they can to bring a component of off-grid radio use to a lot of the work that we do here. So that's fantastic to see. I'm glad that it's working out so well, and I can't wait to see how it develops in the future. So that's pretty much all I have for today. Thank you guys for sticking around for a little bit more of a disorganized one today, but a lot of things in motion, a lot of irons in the fire, and we're gonna have to see how things work out over the next few weeks. A lot of data to crunch through for sure. So thank you guys all for watching. Thank you guys for all of your support. It really does mean a lot. I would not be able to do any of this work without your support, so I really do appreciate that. And I hope that at least some level of success can be had. If not fighting these groups directly, that's going to be impossible, right? But maybe we can have a little bit more marginal success on the lower end and make sure that the right people know what's going on around the country. So thank you guys all again for watching, and I will see you next time. And as always, fight in the shade.